Welcome everyone to the 11-13 NBA preview for Tournament Tactics. First, for those of you who are born and grind listeners and listening to this, I sincerely apologize. One of those days I should have just skipped it. Love you guys all so much, and maybe I tested it a little too far. Apologize to everyone at Roto Grinders. Obviously don't feel good about it, but hopefully this is helpful to you all. So we've got something you think you would know after you attempted a podcast. 9 games on the slate this week today. So let's get started. We've got a lot of injury news, so we're going to cover through that, kind of like what the pivots are if things go certain different ways. And it gives you guys a free glance at what kind of happens in the afternoons inside Tournament Tactics. So this is Sacramento at Washington. This game is a 2. Okay, let's see. 208 total here. The Wizards have a projected 109. The Kings at a 98.5. So there's no injury news in this game, I believe. I don't think there's any injury news, if I remember everything correctly. Yeah, no injury news here. So on Sacramento, this really just comes down to what you think the Justin Jackson thing was. So he ended up closing 2 games in a row and he was playing well. Played 25 minutes in a blowout against the Knicks, put up 8 points. I think he's viable value if you need something cheap. We do have a bunch of news already in some other games, so I don't think we'll need a guy like Justin Jackson, but just know he's here if in case you do need him. Other than that, it's really tough to play the Kings when everyone's playing. They're going to rotate 10, 11 bodies, and Vince Carter being out, not really going to move the needle. Washington, this game's slow for them, so it's kind of really tough to pay any of these prices. John Wall at 9,300 is fair. I think there's other stars I like more, but he's very viable. Bradley Beal at 73, also very viable as well. Porter, Markieff, just kind of situations where I think they're overpriced and I don't really want to attack it. Although I guess you could attack Markieff here, but the minutes are just interesting. Blowout. What's this real minutes limit? I guess 27 is the minutes limit. Stretch forwards against Zach Randolph. I kind of take that back. I think Markieff Morris is a little bit in play. But that's kind of really it. This is really one of those games that I'm just going to be super, super, super heavy on. All right, let's move on. Cleveland, New York. 10-7 total here. 10-7 total. Good morning. It's a 220.5 total. This total's moved up 1.5 since it opened here. The Knicks at 107. Cleveland has the 112 implied team total here. 10-7 is the price of LeBron James, and I think it's too cheap. At MSG, I think he's going to put on a show. Look, did this not work for us last time? Sure, in that Dallas game, but now they haven't played in 2 days. So I feel pretty good about where we're at here with LeBron James. Back-to-backs for him at this age are not going to be great, but we don't have to deal with any of that kind of situation today. We've got arrested LeBron going to MSG. I think he's going to put on a show. I'm paying him for 10-7. I think that's fair. Outside of that, it's kind of interesting. Injury news-wise, Derrick Rose is out. I think that's the only injury news in this game. Other than of course, Tristan Thompson is still out. What do we do with Jeff Green? But pace-up game against Houston, he played well. Did not play so well in the pace-down Dallas game. This game's going to be a little pace up here. I think it's an interesting Jeff Green rebound spot. He's 4,400. So, if he still gets you in the 30s, that's going to be a huge profit in tournaments. I think he's got that upside in a spot like this. So I'll be very much considering Jeff Green tonight. Other than that, though, for Cleveland, I'm not playing Korver or J.R. Smith. I know they can get hot, but I just am not going to put my dollars on that. I think we could do better. On the Knicks side, Porzingis is just an absolute freak. An absolute freak. The problem is just, it's so hard for him to profit now at 9,600. He's put up lots of big games, but you see most of these are low 50s and high 40s. In tournaments, that's just not going to get it done. LeBron's 1,100 more, and he's got 90-point upside, 80-point upside. And I just don't see it with Porzingis. He's a freak for sure. And he's averaging over 30 points a game. But he's a freak. I get it. He's a high floor guy. But, Kevin Love's a good matchup. I get all these things, but the price is just too high for me to play. Other interest on the Knicks, Tim Hardaway Jr. at 62, I think is very viable here. I think that's a very fair price for a guy like that. He's got to shoot well to pay off tournament value, but if he shoots off, you're gonna win. That's what it comes down to. Like, if you shoot the ball well and you're a shooter, like, you're gonna crush. If you don't, you're gonna bust. So that's kind of where I'm at with this game. I like it a little more in that first game, but still really not a game that I have, all this love for. All right, Memphis, Milwaukee. We've got some injury news here. This game has got a 201 total here. It's down 1.5 since the open, as you can see here on the right. So we have Eric Bledsoe is questionable with a knee injury. I believe that's the only big injury news we have here. I think I came across my timeline. Yeah, game time decision. So that's definitely something that you got to consider here for sure. If Bledsoe's out, we just play Brogdon at 54. It's too cheap. I know it's paced down, but he'd get all his minutes back and he would get his usage back. So he's a guy that I would play. And when I say his minutes and usage back, I'm talking more like the Cleveland game. Like, I know he's still playing minutes, but at 5,400, we need 37 minutes and 16 shot attempts. 10 shot attempts in 33 minutes is just not going to get us there enough to make it worth of a play. Chris Middleton's an option at 66. Again, more shots if Bledsoe's out. I think this price is really, really too cheap for Middleton. It's a good spot to price it for us. It's just a really terrible matchup. But I think it's a very viable price and force. And by price and force, I mean, like, the player is just too cheap for the talent level. So, like, matchup just doesn't matter. I think the last time I mentioned it on the show was the Jrue Holiday when he put up 55. I was like, I need to start pricing force against him, and then he went bananas. I kind of feel the same way about Chris Middleton, so I'll probably have a few shares of him tonight. Giannis is a freak, of course. I know Bledsoe out would only help him. He's still too cheap at 10.8. I asked this question, but, like, who's going to guard him? Like, I just don't see who's going to guard him on the Lakers. I don't see an obvious solution. So I think he's just going to – the Lakers, the Grizzlies. But the same type of thing. Like, they don't have any, like, big wings, that are just like, oh, hey, I can guard Giannis. So, a situation for me where I do like the player as well. On the Memphis side, there really is nothing. I'm not playing Conley. There's not a spot-up shooter wing that I really want to attack from Memphis. I guess Tyreke Evans would be the guy, but 6,500 for Tyreke Evans is just really hard for him to profit at this price. So kind of a situation where I do like wings against Milwaukee still, but situation I'm going to have to pass on this slate. All right, Atlanta, New Orleans. This game has a total of 217. 217. Yeah, this is a high total game. Pelicans projected at 113. Atlanta projected at 103. We've got a bunch of injury news in this game. So we have Delaney's probable. We have Bellinelli probable. And then we have Bembry out. We've got Ersan out. And then we have, that's it, Muscala's out. Or doubtful. Okay. So this is the same injury situation now that we've been dealing with all these days. So here's the thing that we're going to have to worry about. New Orleans plays Brown and Boogie a ton of minutes together. And so 2 of the 3 of Dedmon, Collins, and Babbitt are simply going to have to be on the floor. I mean, unless they just want to give up the game, I guess. I guess that's theoretically possible. But they got to put some size on the floor. Like, Kavanaugh's still not playing any minutes, right? Yeah, he's not playing any minutes. So, like, it's a situation where these prices are just too cheap. Like, I get playing Luke Babbitt at 3,800 just doesn't make you feel good inside. But if he's literally going to be on the basketball court for 39 minutes, we just need him to get, like, 21, 22 DK points in like, 40 minutes of basketball. A guy who would be open for threes. If they don't cover, he's the 4. Like, he stretches the floor. I just think you have to play some Luke Babbitt tonight. It's painful. It's not fun. But certainly I think it's very viable, for sure. On the Atlanta side, continuing the Atlanta side of the basketball here, Dwayne Dedmon I think is a good option if you just are willing to embrace the foul trouble risk. Like, obviously these big men are going to have foul trouble. Like, it's Boogie, it's Brow, and they know they're thin at the front court. So they're going to attack early and often here. I do like them. I think Dennis Schroeder's in play as well, along with Kent Bazemore. If you're looking for a GPP play, Bazemore at 5K is simply too cheap. Bazemore, has been hot or cold for sure. But if we get a Detroit-type game, he's a guy who's going to win you a tournament at this price. Schroeder, too, at 7,100, I think has some value. Pelicans, it's the same thing we always talk about. Brow, Boogie, Brow. A bad front court, high-paced game. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of upside here for Boogie. I think this blocks and the steals, which have been kind of disappearing lately, I think they make a resurgence. I think they come back. So I really do like this spot for Boogie. Brow is always in play. I like him more on sites where you have to play like a power forward center type combination, and you want to save at center or save money at center, so you pay up a power forward. That's totally fine. But on these sites where like you can play Brow and Boogie in the same spot, I'm just going to find that 300 more for Boogie just about every time. And I'm just not playing Ian Clark or any of these wings. E'Twaun Moore does E'Twaun Moore things once in a while where he shoots 9 for 12, but that's not very reliable. I guess he's on a hot streak, but yeah, you can't play E'Twaun Moore. As much as, wings versus Atlanta, it's tempting, but I don't think you can do it. All right, next game, Minnesota at Utah. This game has a 207 total with the Minnesota Timberwolves, the 3.5-point favorites here. This total is down 1.5 since open, worth noting here. So on the Minnesota side, for me, it's always just, what are you going to do with Karl-Anthony Towns? Situation here where Gobert is out. Zhang is questionable. It looks like he's closer to doubtful than anything. So there's minutes here for Towns. There's going to be minutes here for Towns. So the question is just how much does he mash in those minutes? Now, with Zhang being doubtful, that opens up more minutes for Taj Gibson. 4,700 is kind of a gross price in this spot, but the guy just plays a ton of minutes. And if you look at his floor, like he's been putting up a lot of games in the 30s, which would even pay off tournament value at this price. So I really believe that Taj Gibson is a very interesting tournament play here. I wish the game was slightly faster. And it's not like Taj Gibson. I want him running up and down the floor. But I also don't want him to be like in a snail's race either. I'm afraid this could be a snail's race, but I think 47 for him is very fair. I'm not a Wiggins guy. I'm not a Butler guy. I kind of just need to see it at this point before I kind of play either one. That's kind of where I'm at with those guys. Like, I know eventually they're going to figure it out, but for me, it's a situation like, okay, Jimmy Butler got there, but he went 14 from 60 for the free throw line. Like, he's just not going to do that often enough to be like, hey, let's play Jimmy Butler. But I will admit, like, the price and force price here is probably close. Like, he's 900 more than Donovan Mitchell is now, which, I'm as big a Donovan Mitchell fan as the rest of the world. But, like, 5,800. Like, he has to now shoot the ball that well to make tournament value. Not a place I want to be. So, it's a situation. I just can't play him. Hood at 48 is always interesting. But, again, Mitchell's just taking a ton of the shots here, and Hood hasn't had that Rodney Hood game yet. Favors is interesting, but I just don't know if I really want to trust it. Like, there's a lot more minutes at the 5 available. I know he mashed in this spot against Brooklyn, but Brooklyn has no size. You know what? Cat is a really bad defender. And you know what? I actually do like Derek Favors, I guess. I just don't like playing these spots when you think they're a chase, but they were already bad inside defensively before Zhang, and now it's probably going to be worse. So, yeah, I'll play Derek Favors at 46. With Gobert out, that should open. You know what I need to do? I'm going to go to Court IQ. I'm going to see what the minutes looked like here. So if you haven't checked out this feature, I certainly would encourage you to do so. So, the first thing you do is you scroll for the team you're looking for, which in this case is the Utah Jazz. And then you just run the query. I'm not looking for the usage rates. Here at the bottom, they have the game flow tracker. This is really helpful. So if I click on Brooklyn, Utah, what I want to do is I just kind of want to see like what were the minutes progression. So what you see here is the 5 guys who started, and you can kind of see like the rotations. So Nato came in for Thabo, who then came in for Alec Burks. So there's nothing really special there. It looks like Equipe Udo was the backup center here, but he only played 12 minutes. So it looks like this is going to be the favor show. Jerebko played 10 minutes, but we didn't really see anyone who could play these huge minutes other than the starters. So we saw a lot of Mitchell beside Rubio in this spot. So this is a spot where I think that Derek Favors is firmly in play, and Thabo played a ton of minutes too. That's 32 minutes here. I wonder what his price is. His price is $3,700. I mean, that's a fair number of minutes. Now, I think some of those were definitely Donovan Mitchell minutes. But if he's going to be in the upper 20s, again, if value for some reason doesn't open up, I don't think that's going to be the case. But, just in case, for sure, do please consider him. I think he's viable. I think that's it with this team. So let's move on to the game of the games. Lakers at Phoenix. This game has a scene total. Let's go look and see what it exactly is. Sure, I'm sure it's like 229 or something. It is a 229.5 total. With Phoenix, the 1-point favorites here. This total has been up 2 points since open, with money coming in on the Lakers here in the early going. So this game has a couple of interesting options here. So on the Lakers side, let me just start there. Lonzo Ball finally had the Lonzo Ball game. I mean, as someone who's rostered this guy all the time, we've been waiting for this game. Now, against Milwaukee was a very random spot to have that. But, again, it's not like he went out there and scored 35 points, 12 rebounds, 13 assists, 7 blocks and steals. Like, this is what happens when you roster Lonzo Ball and GPPs. Like, you play him on a night, he does this, you win. Now, the question is, how popular is he going to be after the 70-burger in this spot? I think he will be pretty popular. It's a situation where I would take a stand one way or another. I would either be in on Lonzo or I'd be out on Lonzo. It's a little too early to kind of know where I'm going to fall on that spectrum. But it's a situation where I just simply think you have to make a stand one way or another here. I think it's tough to fade him, but if you're going to do it, you would do it for a wing guy like KCP here, 4,500. I think he's very too cheap. So too with Jordan Clarkson. We've seen them start to let Jordan Clarkson close in some games, but sometimes he's still playing 20 minutes. So I think KCP at the same price is the better play here. Pace up game, not a good wing defender out there on the floor. He's coming off a couple of tough shooting games. So I think this is a really good spot to hop on the KCP bandwagon. Ingram's viable. I feel like he's a guy that's just always overpriced. Like, he's always 5,900. It's just like he's paid that off in tournaments whoever's last 10 games. And when he paid it off, he didn't even just go bonkers. He just barely paid it off. So I think we can do better than Brandon Ingram here today. Kuzma, it's just like, again, this is a guy who's like, it's tough for him to massively profit here. So he put up 41, that's 7x. But that's the ceiling, right? We've seen the floor, 23, 17. So it's just really tough. You can kill your lineup or you can get you 7x. I mean, these guys are fine. It's a situation you can play them, but it's just a situation where I don't want to be, hey, super heavy. Let's just say, it's just he can burn you, but he's not going to win you anything. And those are the type of plays that I always just kind of fading. Brooke Lopez against Tyson Chandler is a great spot. Great spot. Now the question is, how many minutes are they going to play him? He played 31 in that Memphis game, and he hasn't cracked 23 cents. And a lot of that's due to the resurgence of Julius Randle, who's now 5,300 himself. He's playing the majority of the minutes now. The issue is just that, with these guys splitting time, it's really tough to trust one. If I knew that Brooke Lopez was going to play 30 minutes, I'd take a real stand on the player. I do like Brooke Lopez a ton. So that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. So yeah, I think that's kind of it for the Lakers. The Phoenix side, it's still Mike James. He's still too cheap for a guy who's going to play 30 minutes when the game's competitive. I get it. He hasn't put a game together yet. I fully understand that, but I just if the game's going to be close, this guy's just not going to burn you. And there's all the upside in the world. Kind of reminds me of Lonzo Ball. When he's playing bad, he's not killing you. And when he goes off, he wins you stuff. Those are the type of guys I want to be overweight on. So Mike James, definitely a play I'll be on. Devin Booker, 8K. I just can't, especially with KCP there. That's another good reason for Mike James. KCP, elite defender, could distribute the usage a little bit more to the other guys away from Booker. TJ Warren is in a good spot here at 6,200, but Ingram is just a tough guy to like score on. So, I mean, he plays a ton of minutes. He'll play minutes not against Ingram, so I'm gonna gladly have him. Just know that like there are gonna be some rough spots, I think, in this matchup. Other than that, Chandler is back, so it's really tough to play the bigs in this game. I know Jared Dudley's questionable. Like, I guess that could mean some more minutes for Bender, but it's not exactly the spot where you're going to start rolling out dropping Bender. So I think that's that with that game. So let's slide on to the final 3 games here. And there's some DFS goodness in all 3 of these games. And this is where the pot, I think, went off the rails last night. Oh, man. Ugh. I do apologize again for that. So let's talk about it. This game has a total of 212. The total's up 3 points from open already, with a lot of the points going to Denver. Denver opened as a dog here, and now they're the favorite. So let's talk about this on the Denver point of view first. Moutier's put up a couple good games now in a row, which is always frustrating. This is going to be, the hot hand approach, bullpen by committee. Call it what you want, like in any other sport. This is point guard by committee right now. Like, the guy who's playing better is going to play. And it's going to be tough to roster these guys while they're both healthy, unless you just have a magic crystal ball that's just like, hey, today is a Moutier day. If you do, please DM me. I like to have access to that crystal ball. But it's just tough to play these guys. They're cheap. They do have that going for them. But, it's a pace-up game for sure. Yeah, really not a spot that I think I'm going to go too crazy for here. Let's see, on the Denver side, Jokic is always a play. He's facing Nurkic, his former teammate. We'll talk about that when we get to the other side. I think 8,400 in this spot's a very fair price for Jokic. I think this game's going to be close. I think it's going to shoot out. So I think, we're talking the 70 burgers are in play in this spot like this. I think he's going to play big minutes. The game's going to be competitive. So I do like Jokic here, coming off an extra day of rest. Not a back-to-back, so he's one of my favorite plays on the entire slate. I love Joker. No Millsap for me. I know he's been playing a little bit better lately, but when you're just bad as you were for a month straight, I kind of just want to see, like, is this role sustainable for you? Mo Harkless will draw the assignment on Millsap. Not the best matchup for Millsap, but it's also not the worst. I just think Jokic versus Nurkic is way better for both sides. I don't play any of the wings on Denver. That being said, Gary Harris is questionable. I assume he's going to play, but if he doesn't, Will Barton would become, your 40% owned shooter. Now, he's not free. He's 6K, so like there's a way in which Barton can burn you, but obviously, as you can see against the Magic, when he gets hot and gets minutes like he's been getting lately, you don't want to be on the fade train when he shoots like that. So I think he's viable. On the Portland side of the basketball, Nurkic. I mean, here, I'm actually going to use our friends over at StatMuse for this one. Nurkic, DK points by game since 2016 versus Nuggets. And he went absolutely bonkers. Oh, whoops. I did by game. Oh, it was only one game. So I put up 61 DK in 32 minutes. I kind of expect, I don't expect this, but I expect him to be getting the ball very early and very often in this spot. So I think Nurkic is very viable in tournaments for sure. Other than that, like Lillard and McCollum and pace-up games, I get it. Evan Turner is just bad at basketball. Like, he's just not good. I understand he's a value, but I'm just not doing it. Mo Harkless and Connaughton and Napier, and I just don't see it. With Napier being in the rotation, I just think you kind of have to stay away. Lillard's in play, of course, but he hasn't been taking like the 25-shot game. Like the games he's been doing well in this season have been free throw games. He shot the ball well in that overtime game at Utah. Toronto as well, but he's not like just doing that on the regular. So, kind of a tournament play, pace-up game. It could be him, could be McCollum. I think the prices are fair. Just they're not exactly like, oh, hey, this guy stands out as this amazing value play. Orlando at Golden State. I assume this is a big total. It's a 229.5 total. The Magic are 13.5-point dogs. So the biggest injury news on the slate is Steph Curry is questionable with a right thigh. He returned, he finished. It looks like he should be good to go here, but we'll have to keep an eye out on that. If he was to miss, obviously, Clay, Draymond, and Durant suddenly are like your top studs of the day. I do like if Iguodala happens to sit. Actually, that's just a fake rest. He rested against the 76ers, so he'll be good to go. So I don't have to worry about that situation. So I just outside of the big four in Golden State, I just don't play around with anyone else. It's just like I get it, like they'll have games that go off, but again, crystal ball would pretty much be necessary in this spot. Magic side, Elfrid Payton is questionable. He sat out Saturday's game. They called it rest. I think he actually just sat with that hamstring injury. He played limited minutes the game before against the Suns. So we have to keep an eye out on this and kind of just see like where his health is. I think he could sit this one out. That being said, if he does play, it's a really good Elfrid Payton spot. Pace-up game. Can attack the rim. Not exactly a ton of shot blocking there. So I do like Elfrid Payton in this spot. I think the Magic as a team are a little too cheap in this spot. Fournier's been my guy. He's 6,400. Like the games in which he's played bad is because the games have blown out. Like he just has not had I've played a full game and I played terrible. And so, since that Boston game, and we've talked about wins against Boston multiple times, it's just a death trap when you're trying to play wins against Boston. But I think this is a really good Evan Fournier spot, pace-up game, lots of shots available. Going to play big minutes. 6,400 for him is just simply too cheap. When it wasn't his fault that they blew out and got blown out, and his price dropped for that, not because of a change in his role or anything like that. Aaron Gordon's a beast, 7,400. Never would talk you out of him. Vooch is interesting at 73. He could go off in this spot. I wonder what he's done in his history against Golden State. 2016 versus the Warriors. Let's see what we got here. Not great, and he's actually hasn't stayed on the floor the last two games. So I think this is definitely a red flag right here. 24 and 24. I even think the Magic won one of these games, if I remember correctly. So that's a very dangerous situation for me. I don't think I'd play Vooch. I think I would go ahead and play the other guys first. All right. Philly Clippers, last game on the slate. It's a 220.5 total. It's basically a pick 'em. This game's up 2 points. Clippers are the favorites here. Let's start with the Philly side as we always do. We start with the road team. I don't think there's any injury news in this game. Bayless is still questionable, but I mean that's not really huge news. I think we're good. So this is a spot where I do want to play wings against the Clippers. So I think Covington, JJ Redick, revenge, if you want to call it revenge. It's probably not very vengeful. He got a nice contract. But I think those wings are in play. Ben Simmons, of course, has like the highest floor on planet Earth. He's just unreal. He's like, if you just need to put like 45 points in your lineup, just like get Ben Simmons. Like, yeah, okay. Didn't do it in a blowout in a game he got in foul trouble, but like other than that, just like 50, 50, 50, 45, 50, 42, 55. Like the guy is just good for 40. So if you're looking for a high floor guy, he's always in play. Embiid in this spot should play some minutes. His minutes restriction is kind of gone. We've seen him now play over 30 minutes in close games. So, this is a good matchup against DeAndre Jordan. There's blocks to be had. There's rebounds to be had. So I think Embiid is firmly in play here, below 8K, playing above 30 minutes. Like this is a guy people were paying 8K for last year when he was playing like 20 minutes. So I think that, in this spot playing 32 minutes, he's a very good tournament option. On the Clippers side, we do have a little more injury news on that side of the basketball here. Let's see what's going on with Pat Bev. He is questionable. So we have to see what the status of him is. He got ruled out of both games over the weekend, which you just read. Other than that, it's Gallinari's questionable. Tosanovic is still out. So Blake just hasn't had the Blake Sailing game. Like I've tried to roster him, waiting for it. He just hasn't put up the 60-point Blake game. And so until he does it, I think at this point I'm just going to sit out and watch. It's kind of the situation for sure for me. That being said, with the wings out, I think Lou Williams is firmly in play here. It's not like Philadelphia has this elite wing defender that can just go out there and stop Lou Will. Like, yeah, he didn't shoot well on the back-to-back, but how many times have jump shooters shot well on back-to-backs? It's one of the things we talk about all the time in here. It's like you got to be wary of a jump shooter on a back-to-back, and that's what happened to him in New Orleans. But the minutes were there, 36 minutes. If he plays 36 minutes against Philadelphia, he will score more than 23 DK points. So I think Lou Will, one of your top value options on the board. Value, mid-tier, call it what you want. Wes Johnson's still going to stay on the corner for a ton of minutes if he doesn't get in foul trouble. I know he didn't play much against the Pelicans, but they didn't really need him. That game kind of went downsized. But if you need a guy who's going to stay on the corner for a lot of minutes, Wes Johnson is your man. I think he'll draw a lot of Covington defensively in this game. DeAndre Jordan's a fine option. I just am not a DeAndre Jordan fan. Like, it's tough for me to just want to roster DeAndre Jordan. He's a 2-category guy. Like, it's just, I hate that. I want my players to be able to score in lots of different ways. The price is fair. He's got upside here. It's just not a siege type play. But that, we broke down all the games. Once again, I do apologize for how terrible the Morning Grind podcast was. For you guys in tactics, the model will be up as soon as I go get some food and lunch. Then the rankings will come up later than that. For you Morning Grind listeners, I do sincerely apologize again. It was just unacceptable. So I do apologize for that. Hopefully this show was helpful. Hopefully you're listening to it on the way home from work, or you're listening in your office at lunch. Anyways, I do appreciate you all, and I apologize for wasting your time this morning. Your time means something to me, so I really do apologize for that. With that, well, enjoy the day, everyone, and then if you guys are in tactics chat, we'll keep on rolling about the slate.